Actually, they have this tower that they have on the
You can pop into your room, into the you want me to go back with you? That was back in the day when they used stuff like that. Spaceship exploding. Yeah, yeah.
All right, 6 o'clock.
Oh, well, no, you're.
I always know when to start because Misty's over my shoulder, but go. Okay, we have a perfect attendance. I guess that's cool. Let's just go in order, like sometimes I don't. Anybody got issues from the minutes from the last meeting? Moving on. So, number 2 tonight's gonna be ordinance 2025-005, amending and replacing Appendix C Master Fee Schedule of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Robinson, repealing the ordinances or part of the ordinances in direct conflict, severability clause, providing an effective date, and open meetings declaration. So, Craig, you wanna,
I'm gonna hand it off to this.
that's fine.
She's spent a lot of time working on this, so.
You're up.
So I put the majority of changes in the agenda memo, while we were updating some of these fees. What started all of this was the realization that the water deposit fee was incorrect. It was on the fee schedule as $133, it's actually only $75. So that kind of spearheaded this entire thing where we were like, well, if we're gonna update that, then we probably should update some of the other fees that we're charging to meet the market, because costs are fluctuating so much right now with the threats of tariffs and stuff like that. So it's just easier if we list it as a fee that the actual cost to the city. And so Mike Dixon was like, well, if you're gonna update this, why don't you just, because we were trying to clean it up and make it more visibly appealing. He's like, why don't you just put them all on there to clean it up, so that's where the document that's printed on your, for each of y'all came from.
But any changes are noted in your memo.
Yes.
We can-
So it didn't increase any cost, if any, thing changed, it was just, we put it as actual cost to the city.
Did you hear what I meant, Spurs?
What is the court fee now? By hour?
It hasn't changed, it's listed, it depends on the facility. So the amphitheater is $50 an hour, the gazebo is $25, and the pavilion's $30, and then there's a minimum 2 hours for each. You're welcome.
I have a question regarding, how often are we reviewing them and updating them? Is this just one of those that you hadn't done in a while and saw one issue and turned into, hey, correct them all like you said, or is there a plan to be like regular, going through and updating annually, biannually, every 2 weeks, whatever?
I wanna say we were looking at them annually. The fee schedule did come before y'all not too long ago with some planning and development updates. They tend to have, more like cost fluctuations than a lot of these other ones do. But with us updating, some of these fees to actual cost of the city, then it wouldn't need to be monitored as closely. With the new meters, that was something we probably should have looked into as soon as they were all installed. With the new meters, they have radios that are attached to them now, antennas that are attached to them, and they're just more costly than what we had previously. And then there were several, fees we had listed like underneath municipal court that we don't actually set here at the city, they're set at the state level, so we updated that.
Anybody got questions? Anybody need more time? Plan Development District Ordinance 2019-002 in order to allow for a reduction in lot sizes, increase the number of lots, open space preservation, and other changes for portions of the Windmill Preserve subdivision on 48.67 acres approximately addressed as 710 East Tegall Drive, also known as the McLean County President District Property ID 158-319 for Campo C acres. Great.
So first, this is on the agenda for public hearing tonight and everything, so if you do have questions, we need to kind of limit those to anything technical about the memo, if there's anything or any questions you want to clarify, but as far as getting into the particulars about the rezoning and the purpose and all that, we need to leave those kind of issues to after the public hearing, but if there's any questions within the memo, that maybe need a little clarification or something from staff, Mr. Harrell's here, we have to clarify that before.
Everybody.
I have a question though.
All right, go ahead.
Right here it says garage required for 2 cars and the new one's a blank. Does that mean it's staying the same?
It is staying the same, because it shows that there's going to be.
It's just a blank, there's not any words there, it's just a blank.
It shows there's going to be.
Okay.
Car
See what I'm
garages,
saying right here?
driveways for.
You hear that, Dave? Yes. That is, it's staying the same.
Is that right there?
Yes.
Okay, I was just making sure they had garages, everyone had parking lot out there. Nobody's seen. Okay.
Were there any responses back for the notice of public hearing? No responses back?
Just had one response, and that's in your packet.
Oh, I can see it.
That was really the only question I had.
Okay. Anybody else have a question, not something that we would ask in the hearing? No, that's gonna take us to the question. Okay, all right, well, we'll move on. Also in the public hearing is going to be ordinance 2025-007, deleting in its entirety appendix A, zoning article 11 supplementary district regulations, section 11.11 site plan approval, and adding chapter 22 site development. As indicated in exhibit A, providing for an effective date, providing a savings clause, and finding and determining that the meeting at which ordinance is passed is open to the public, as required by law. So this would be the item discussed 2 meetings ago? Correct? So we kind of reviewed that. Does anybody have basic, not other type questions? Revisit that.
I have none.
Okay, well, that didn't take very long. Anybody got anything else while we're at the table? Okay, we're adjourned until 6:30.
It's like
Go.
65 of them.
All right,
Okay.
6:30. We have a quorum and all are here. We do not have outside invocation tonight, so we're gonna ask Brother Jimmy Rogers in the end to pray for us.
Do my best. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for all the blessings you've given us, Father. We ask for guidance and wisdom tonight as we make decisions for our city, Father. We just lift up our staff to you, Father. We lift up our police, our fire, our EMS, and those in serving in the military, Father. We just ask to keep them safe and bring them home every day, Father. Again, we just ask for guidance and wisdom, and it's in your Son's holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
this roll call. Present.
Here.
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 Here. City Council invites citizens to address the council on any matter including items on the agenda, except public hearings that are included on the agenda. Comments related to public hearings will be heard when the public hearing starts. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. The council is not permitted to take action or discuss any item not listed on the agenda. When called to speak, please state your name, address, and if speaking on an agenda item, please state the item before beginning your comments. With that, Ms. Vaughn.
Good evening. I'm Linda Vaughn, the president of the Robinson Chamber of Commerce. I bring you greetings from the chamber and announcements. Our next monthly board meeting will be April the 8th, right here in City Hall at noon. We switched that from the second Wednesday to the second Tuesday of each month. It is an open board meeting and you're welcome to attend, and we do appreciate the opportunity to be able to meet here and have a nice place to have our meeting, and appreciate the table now that we are able to gather around for those meetings. Our next quarterly networking luncheon will be April the 10th at noon at Cajun. Our speaker will be Mayor Greg May, and our business spotlight will be Greg May Honda. We'd love to have you join us for that event. It is at noon also. Everybody's welcome. You don't have to be a chamber member. We'd love for you to join the chamber, but you don't have to be a chamber member to attend those meetings. We also will be joining with other chambers on April the 4th for Cafe Pan Dulce at 9:30 in the morning, from 9:30 to 10:30 at 510 Austin Avenue. So anybody that's interested in finding out about what's going on with the other chambers, as well as an update on our chambers, welcome to attend that meeting as well. On April the 5th at 8:30 in the morning, which is a Saturday, we will be attending and helping to participate in a ribbon cutting for the Robinson Food Pantry. We'd like to invite you all to come and attend that as well. And then upcoming, a little later on, we'll have our annual membership banquet on July 17th. We are taking sponsorships for that. We are accepting donations for our door prizes, silent auction items, raffles, whatever we might have that night that will help us to raise money, because this is our annual fundraising event. And then we'll also have a collaborative luncheon with the Belmead Chamber of Commerce on September the 10th at noon at the Belmead Civic Center. We would like to invite all of you to come out and attend that, as well as it will be joint between the Belmead Chamber and the Robinson Chamber, and we like to collaborate with other chambers, and they invited us and we said yes. So, thank you.
Thank you. No more blue cards, so we will go to Craig for Employee of the Year presentation. Go over here.
Ken West, our HR director, sends out emails to all city staff, says it's time for employee to use nominations. And any employee can nominate any other employee for employee year. So it's not, the supervisor can nominate a subordinate can nominate a supervisor, employee one department can nominate, it doesn't matter. It's open for everyone. So we go through that each year. Once we get the nominations, with this year we had 6. The executive staff in our weekly staff meetings, they get all of the nominations, and they all read over them and make the decision and select who they would like to pick for the employee of the year. Typically, I've reserved the position of only breaking a tie, but then I usually make sure there's always an odd number of people, so there's never a tie. But usually the decision is unanimous or almost unanimous, so usually once they go through that process, it stands out. So this year, there's no exception, went through that process and picked out someone I think is a very deserving employee for this. And it's gonna be really hard. I like to kind of point out things to the person and then name them at the end, but this particular person, because of the nature of the job that she does and everything, you're gonna know the minute I start talking. So our employee of the year is Erica Crockett. That's why you're here tonight. Surprise. On that job, helped work us through the new meter change and all that, but this last year she's been very instrumental in getting all that process fine-tuned. We've changed some billing, we went through new billing companies, she took the lead on that, working on policies, procedures, and all those kind of things that are necessary to make that run more efficiently. As a result, we're seeing fewer cutoffs and cutoff days because we've given our customers more opportunities to pay their bills, keep from being cut off. We now send out text message notices and all that. So she's been very instrumental in all that. She also, one of the things the person nominator pointed out is she's the person that gets to talk to all the utility customers who are unhappy with the answer they get from the clerks. So she spends a great deal of time dealing with people who aren't particularly happy, and she always does a great job with that. She is very good at handling people. She keeps her cool when other people may not. Usually can diffuse the situation, and very rarely does it get to me, which I appreciate. I always like when other people can resolve things before they get to me, so I definitely appreciate that. I do want to read one thing that the person nominated said. She was instrumental in migrating a more efficient utility billing company, working diligently to streamline processes, reduce administrative burdens, improve service reliability, recognizing the importance of customer convenience, champion the adoption of more user-friendly payment options. One of them was removing the credit card fees and initiatives that directly benefit the community by making utility payments more convenient. Her ability to challenge the status quo with practical, well-researched solutions has transformed the department's approach to service and operations. Instead of working within the constraints of outdated practices, she has fostered a culture of continuous improvement, demonstrating that progress is not only possible but essential. And through her leadership and proactive problem solving, she has set a new standard for excellence, making her deserving of employee of the year, and I agree with that remark. So, come on up.
They all know the drill, y'all are not taking it from me.
Get over there.
Get out of the way. Get this.
Okay, you're good. Actually, Erica, Erica, do you, Laura, would you tilt your head down? Okay, awesome.
And appreciate it.
Of course.
Poor thing, tell her she doesn't have to stay. I said, poor thing, tell her she doesn't have to stay. She has to stay.
She'll wait till we're busy and she'll slip out.
Yeah, I would too.
All right, we have 2 items on the consent agenda, approving the minutes from February 18th, 2025, and the approval of ordinance 2025-005, amending and replacing Appendix C Master Fee Schedule of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Robinson, Texas, repealing the ordinance or part of the ordinance in direct conflict, severability clause, and providing an effective date and open meeting declaration. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion, yes, sir. Motion to approve consent agenda items as written.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to our first public hearing. So we'll open this public hearing at 6:41. This is a public hearing to consider and possible action approving ordinance 2025-006, modifying Plan Development District Ordinance 2019-002 in order to allow for a reduction in lot sizes, increase in number of lots, open space preservation, and other changes for portions of the Windmill Preserve subdivision on 48.67 acres, approximately addressed as 710 East Tegall Drive, also known as McLennan County Appraisal District Property ID 158319, the Ocampo C acres. Dave?
Just a moment. Mayor, Council, David Harold, Planning and Development Director. The item before you today is a PDD modification to an existing PDD ordinance. And it's not working. If you guys, next slide, please. The item before you says a PDD modification takes place in the Windmill Preserve Development. It's the area in purple highlighted by the blue up there on the screen. This PDD covers a larger portion, but this modification covers a portion that's currently undeveloped. The site has multiple residential zonings around it signified by the light green in this area, over here, and the blue as well. And there are smaller residential lots here and here that are nearby as well, so it's on the very edge of the smaller developments in the city. A little bit of historical information. The ordinance that governed that whole plan development district was passed April 2nd of 19, and it rezoned the land from single family 1 to plan development district. And what the PDD ordinance does is it sets its own little zoning code and standards for how a site develops, such as uses within its setbacks, dwelling sizes, that sort of thing, and a text format, which we call the development plan text, and a map, which is the development plan map, and I'll show some of that information up here on the screen. This is the original PDD ordinance that approved the site. The standards within it reflected SF1, which is the orange, the SF2, which is in red, and the 2F standard, which is in green. So there were different lot sizes associated with that. So what the proposed changes will do is the red and orange will change, and it will reflect basically these are 92 lots within the development, and it will change to a different standard, which we'll go into here in a minute. The current area in green is the developed areas. That is not changing with this modification. That original ordinance still governs that site. Basically, the major modification, I said, will set different setbacks, standards, that sort of thing associated with the modification. Basically, what it will do, this is the new PDD map that's proposed with the changes in the Plan Development District text. So effectively, you're going to create SF3 size lots, which are 6,000 square feet in size. With the exception, the lot size would be go from 60 feet to 50 feet. So you have a reduction of 10 feet on the width, but you have an increase of plus 20 from 100 to 120 on the lot depth. So it's a 6,000 square foot lot configured with a different width and depth, basically. And the lot reduction will allow for the creation of 76 new lots, and it will total 168 lots within this modification. This is the actual site map that's with it. You can see the areas right here, and that will be a large kind of floodplain that's preserved, and there will be numerous smaller open space areas within that development. Within your packet is a staff report that covers all of the changes. The areas in yellow, I've kind of put the present standards that will govern it under the old 2019 ordinance, and the proposed standards that would govern it if this ordinance were approved tonight. So the things that would be changing are in yellow. So right now, there's single family and duplex uses that are allowed under the current ordinance that would change to only single-family homes in that development. Right now, we have no residential density set. It would set 3.5 units an acre. The current development pattern is 3.45, so it falls within it. Setbacks, height would all stay the same for the front and rear. The sides would change a little bit. There would be smaller side setbacks. However, within the SF2 portion of the PDD, that already exists. So in other words, where it's changing already, a portion of it already exists, but it would just cover that whole development with the modification. Lot sizes, SF1 and SF2 are 12 and 8,000 square feet respectively. That'll reduce to 6,000, which is standard size for an SF3 lot. Minimum lot depth, as I said, was changing. Right now, it's 120 for the SF1 portion and 80 for the SF2. That would reduce down to, or actually that would increase to 120. So it would be reflective over the whole development, which is standard in the SF1 lots is a 120 depth. So it's kind of staying the same in that regard. Just the SF2 would disappear, which reduces the depth from down to 80 feet. So in other words, they're larger lots, depth-wise. Lot width would change, where it's 100 feet in SF1 and 80 in SF2. An SF3, it would go to a 50-foot wide lot, where an SF3 is 60. So it's a little bit smaller lot than an SF3, but not by much. Current lots in the development area are 92. That would go up to 168 because you're adding 76 lots in that area that's being modified for the newer development. Right now, the total development of the PDD is 136 lots. That increases from 76 up to 212 total for the entire planned development district, including the portion not changing. As you can see here, there are other changes where there's minimum caliper size for trees and one tree and a certain number of shrubs. That's being changed around somewhat. And also some of the fence standards are being changed around where you have the good side out. This one doesn't really specify that. And also, some of the other items as seen on the screen within your packet are staying the same. Right now, in this PDD, there's a proposal for an HOA for this area. So they would govern the open space and the common areas within the development, where now there's none in place. That's a summary of all the changes. From staff review of this, the biggest changes staff feels is the preservation of the 9 acres within the floodplain and the numerous open spaces throughout the site. This would be desirable from a developmental standpoint, so staff has no concerns there. There is a decrease in minimum dwelling area. However, these are similar, it goes down to a smaller size, but it's a situation whereby, let's see here. Originally, the proposal is 1,350 square feet. So this is a little bit smaller than some of that can go in, smaller, I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. These are a little smaller than what can go in there. However, the duplex allows 12, 14, and 1,600 square foot lots. So smaller homes can go in the 2F area. And these aren't all that different from the size of the duplex that can go in. They're 1,350. One of the concerns I have from a staff standpoint is with every new residential development, you have a lot which generates so much traffic based on study. So this, with the new development, will generate, with the total 168 lots that are proposed in the development, including the 76 additional, you'll generate 292 trips at 1.74 AM and PM peak hour trips, which is a unique measurement that engineers use to determine how much traffic a residential development will generate based on the lots and the use of them. So there's going to be additional traffic on Stegall, so we need to take that into consideration in this. So we feel from a staff standpoint that traffic should be mitigated on Stegall, and there's a way that you can do that to allow for their traffic flows to be safely on that road system, and that's through the creation of a traffic impact analysis and requiring implementation of that, either through payment of funds or actual improvements for that road system. So the other changes that were highlighted in yellow, that's the density, loss of duplex, side yard setbacks, landscaping, and fencing. I consider those to be kind of minor in nature and not detrimental to anything around it, or if they were to be, or them to be implemented within the PDD itself. Under 332 of the city code, there are 5 findings of fact. Those are within your packet. There's staff interpretation of those, however you come up with your own interpretations of those standards. We feel, from a staff standpoint, that's not largely detrimental to the area. The uses are being reduced from single-family duplex in this portion of the PDD down to single-family. Based on the different sizes of homes, there'll be a diversification of home sizes. The standards are mostly similar to the SF3 zoning. However, as stated earlier, I do have concerns about traffic on Stegall. If a TIA is imposed as part of this, that would resolve the issue. So based on that information, staff has no issues or concerns with the request, provided the additional language be added as part of the condition of the approval, should council choose to bring that forward. And basically, all it says is language be added to the proposed ordinance, Exhibit B, text stating that following a traffic impact analysis is required to be performed on the new 168 total lots within the modification and submitted with our preliminary plat application. So we would approve that TIA as part of our future plating application. And then whatever the TIA recommends, whether that be fees or construction in lieu of or a combination thereof, that it be implemented as part of the final plating and subdivision construction process when we look at the infrastructure at that time. With that said, as I said earlier, staff would suggest that council bring that condition forward if you were to approve this tonight. Now, it went to Planning and Zoning Commission on March 6, 2025. They did recommend denial of this 3-1. Now, under code, because PDD modifications are treated similar to rezonings, you would have to have a supermajority of members, 6 of the 7, to approve this tonight. So it's no longer a simple majority, it's a supermajority on this. If you were not to approve this tonight, then any changes as part of this PDD would not be able to come forward until the middle of September of this year, because there's a 6-month window whereby no other proposals can come forward in regards to that. And with that said, that ends my presentation.
Thank you. All right, thanks, Dave.
And I believe the applicant is here as well and has some presentations as well.
Good. Applicant can come forward and have the podium.
Hello, my name is Adrienne Donatucci. I'm with WBW Development. I'm the land development manager with them. Our office is based out of Georgetown, Texas, 109 West 2nd Street. I wanted to do a quick introduction tonight of WBW Development because we are new here to the city of Robinson. Although we are not new to Central Texas, we have been around for over 40 years here in Central Texas. We're a family-owned company. We have single-family subdivisions, that's what we do, all the way from Waco down to San Antonio over to Bryan College Station. So we work in over 9 counties and have worked all around the area. We are a little unique as a development firm. We're not just your standard developer that subs out everything. We have everything under one umbrella. So I'm the development manager. We have in-house land acquisition. We also have 15 in-house civil engineers under Yalgo Engineering, which is under WBW Development. We do sub out our specialty engineering, so geotechnical engineering, if we have to do traffic studies, traffic engineering, that's the only thing that really does get subbed out. We also have in-house survey, and then we have our own construction team, so WBW Construction. So you typically see some developers, once the development moves forward, they'll sub this out to large GCs who sub it out to multiple subs. If the city inspector, city staff, residents ever have questions or concerns while construction is ongoing, sometimes it could be tedious to find out who's on site and how you're gonna call them and get a hold of them. With us, we know where they are. They're on our payroll. We know what equipment is on that site. We know what people are on that site. We can get a hold of them instantly. So I just like to share that because that's what's a little unique about us. We're about 200 employees in total on all of our sites. So the only thing we do not do is, ironically, we do not build homes. We build subdivisions. So we provide the finished lots. And then we have national, regional, and local build partners. We have many, many build partners. So as we move through the process of developing these subdivisions, some of them are large master plan subdivisions, 1,500 lots, 2,000 lots. Some of them are smaller subdivisions, just 100 lots. So it depends on how many build partners we bring in. So we may have one or two partners, and some of our larger ones, you'll see a couple partners come in. So that we do not do the vertical construction. This is just kind of an overall map showing, there's a little red star up there, and you can see the city limits. So you can see where the site is within your city limits, and then just showing the major roadways where that is in proximity to the site. And then just a close-up of the 48 acres we're here to discuss this evening. Again, I know Mr. Harrell shared this with you, but the current PDD allows for the 44 duplexes, the 60 SF1, and the 32 SF2 lots. As was shared earlier, the whole portion in green, the 44 duplex lots, that has been constructed to date. As far as the infrastructure, a lot of those duplexes have been constructed. Some of them are under construction, and I think there's a couple more left to be constructed. But that portion is not what we are here to talk about tonight. It is everything in the orange and the red. This is what we are proposing tonight. So we are proposing to do the SF3, the 6,000 square foot lots. So they would be 50 by 120. There is 168 lots here on 48.67 acres. There is approximately 16 acres of open space, and that would be maintained by a homeowners association. So to break down some of this open space, you see a large portion of it in the back of the property there along the creek. Using FEMA's most updated models, I think it was updated in late 2023. If you look closely, and you can probably see it in your packet a little bit better, there is a blue line that follows that cul-de-sac in the back. I'm trying to use this laser, but I'm not good at using it. So, and that is about 12 acres of floodplain. You did see in the previous plan that they did lot out the residential lots into the floodplain. You can do that. We tend not to do that and pull all of our lots outside of the floodplain. So our home builders are required to fence in the properties with the construction. Reason being is when the developer and the builder go away, sometimes sheds and fire pits and patios sometimes pop up when they're not supposed to in floodplain areas. So we always find it best to pull lots out of that area, keep it as open space, have it maintained by an HOA, ensure that no development happens in that area. We've kept multiple access points in those cul-de-sacs so that people can get down there to maintain those areas. Additionally, there is a wastewater easement that runs through that back portion as well. So if ever the utility provider had to go and do any type of maintenance on that, you don't want them knocking on doors of homeowners and going through fences. So again, another reason to keep that open, allow, access to maintain that back area. And additionally, there's another, about 4 acres of open space just throughout the property, kind of creating a buffer around the property. A portion of that is up in the front area. We have talked to some of those homeowners, and our intent is, should this move forward and we get through engineering and design, we will have some extra land in that area. We would dedicate it over to them to kind of give them a buffer from us being in their backyard. Where the previous plan really had lots, because they needed to meet a certain size, lotted up to their backyard. So we're kind of able to provide them a little bit of a reprieve from the development creeping into their backyards. Here, I did bring up that we are asking for the variance for the FS3, not from the total square footage, but in the configuration, from the 50 to 120 rather than the 60 to 100. And a lot of that comes from our builders. We hear that buyers, they're not hanging out in their front yards or side yards. They want the big backyards. So whenever you look and you lot everything from 60 to 100 and you have your front setbacks and your side yard setbacks, you're really not left with much of a backyard. I think even at some of the duplexes that have the 100-foot depth, by the time they get with the setbacks, they have like 15-foot backyards. So by really going that 120, we're able to deliver a bigger backyard to a homeowner, which is a lot more marketable. So that is one of the reasons that we have that request out there. But other than that, from the SF3, we're not asking for any other variances from setbacks or square footage size that's already listed in your ordinance for SF3. And I wanted to show this. This is a proposed product mix. I'm not saying this is exactly what will be constructed there. This is one of our regional builders that has these homes about 10 miles from this site in one of our subdivisions. Again, another reason for the 50-foot lots that we really like is the versatility of product sizes and the way that it looks and fits on these lots. You can have, obviously all lots allow for a single story or 2-story, but what we're proposing here are 3 to 4 bedrooms, 2 to 4 bathrooms, and these prices are in today's market. I'm just sharing this site that's 10 miles away, and they're right now ranging from $290,000 to $400,000. So, if this project were to move forward, depending on the market, those prices would move with the market. But they're able to offer a wide variety of products. Sorry. And part of that is, I think people see 50-foot lots and they automatically jump to first-time home buyers, entry-level homes, but we're not seeing that, and we're not hearing that from our builders. You obviously do have your small single-story homes that are 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom at the lower price point, and you are getting the first-time home buyers. That's attainable to them. There may be a young professional that is looking for a small home at a price point they can afford. But we're also seeing that growing families are looking to move up to their second home or third home as they're having their second or third child. And they're looking at our large 2-story, 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom homes to get that bigger home. And then additionally, you're seeing the empty nesters saying, wait, I want to downsize and go live next to those grandkids, and I want to live in that large single-story house. So we're really seeing these turn into multi-generational type communities where you have the grandparents down the street, the growing families living next door to the young professionals. So we see that flexibility in this lot size. Additionally, we think that this would be a great mix for the city. It provides some diversity in housing options as business grows and more jobs come into the city. It provides some diversity in housing sizes and prices to allow those people to work here and live here and be part of the city. And lastly, I just kind of keep this last slide because I talk to a lot of people and they always ask me what happens after zoning. And they think that development just starts the day you are approved with your zoning. With this project specifically, back in November, I reached out to the city prior to us even having it under agreement with the current seller. And I said, hey, this is what we're looking to do. What are your thoughts? Can we do a pre-development meeting? So we did that. I heard that, you know, they're gonna do a mailing once the application goes in of a 200-foot buffer. With that, I said, okay, well, before we get the application in, let's go ahead and let's do a mailing of our own, put our information out there, let's try to get a feel for what we hear. So in early December, I sent a letter out to about 22 property owners. I know the seller himself contacted the duplex owner since he was the developer for those individuals, and I contacted everybody else within the 200-foot buffer. I did hear back from 3 individuals that I got to meet up with either in person or over the phone, and these were questions, like what happens after zoning? So here with this slide, just to share, as Mr. Harrell told you all, the traffic impact study, the reason I have it bolded and italicized is because it is not a requirement of the city's subdivision ordinance, but it is being asked to be a condition of this amended PDD. So we proactively have reached out to our traffic engineer, got a proposal. Our traffic engineer has reached out to the city staff and their third-party traffic engineer to get a scoping. We are ready to sign this proposal should this move forward and have that study conducted. We have no issues with it. And we just want to point out that with the existing PD, there's no requirement of a traffic impact study to be updated or done. And I know at planning and zoning I can't speak for them on what I can't put words in their mouth, but from being there and listening to discussion, traffic was the major concern, roadways were the major concern. And this is one way that we can guarantee that those roads get studied and looked at, and this traffic impact analysis will allow that to occur, to look at those roads. So I wanted to put that there because that's something, should this get approved, that we will release as soon as possible. It will be a condition of the preliminary plat, which would be the following step that we would work with through the city. Takes a long time, it's another process, it would go back to planning and zoning, so that they can check all the boxes, make sure that everything on that preliminary plat is exactly what we promised in the PDD. And then from there, we go into construction plans. Takes our engineers many, many months to put these plans together. They're the detailed plans of how we are going to construct the subdivision. That gets submitted to city staff and their engineer for review. And there's a back and forth process there. Once we have a permit, we move into construction and have regular inspections, and then we have our final inspection, and it's not until then that we see houses go vertical. So I just like to share that zoning is that first box, and we have a lot of steps after that. We are excited and hope that this project could move forward. We are eager and willing to go above and beyond to do whatever, we need to do to make this project work and to make the city happy. So that is all I have for tonight. I thank you all and really welcome any public comments or any comments from the council, because it just helps us understand and grow. So I thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we close the public part, is there anyone here that would like to speak? Anybody else that would like to speak on this? Okay, with not, we'll close the public hearing at 7:09 and go to the council for questions. Either direction. Anybody have a question?
I'll jump in. I have several. Some are going to be for staff, and then some for, I'm sorry, your name again?
Adrian?
Adrian. I'll have some for you as well. So David, you talked about, and I may have just been confused in your part of the presentation, about the preservation of 9 acres. And then in her presentation was, I think, 16 acres, if I understood that correctly. Could you expand on that part of your presentation, on what that was?
Initially, the applicant had that down in the application as 9 acres. And it was my belief at that time that was the FEMA floodplain. The applicant can expand on that.
So we're gonna have 16 acres of of, I guess, public space, or however you're calling that, in that floodplain? Is that 16?
So the floodplain itself is, to be exact, I think it's 12.12. Initially, when we did the pre-development meeting, it was 9. FEMA had updated their map. We were using a former map. We had requested the updated FEMA map before, once we were going through feasibility, and it moved, and that's when it went from 9 to 12. So then we have about 4 acres of open space additionally throughout the development, but it's 12 in the back floodplain.
12 in the back, okay. Very good, that clears that up. And then, I guess for you as well, so how many so there were 44 duplexes, that's on that first street in that first one, and we're taking what was the second street and the third street to, from single family to just SF3 with this one change, right?
Yes.
And so, square footage on the lot stay the same, we're just shaping them differently, is that correct?
The SF, the initial one, oh, sorry.
Sorry, my apologies, question was terrible. You're changing, you're requesting SF3, but changing from SF3
Correct.
to smaller, longer lots, I guess.
Correct.
Narrower, longer lots.
The square
Terrible
footage,
question.
SF3 is 6,000 square foot. We're keeping it 6,000 square foot, but we're requesting 50 by 120 to get to that configuration versus 60 by 100.
Therefore, adding more units, more lots available.
Yes.
And then I think you said that you're hiring the traffic engineer as well.
Yes.
So for Craig, is that the appropriate, usually would the developer be the one to hire that?
Yes.
We get that report, review it, verify it?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
that?
we don't typically do it, the developer.
But
We
get
only
a-
do it if we're the one, like, building
Building it.
a road on the tech stop, but typically the developer will be required to perform that.
But we get a chance to review it
Yes.
and authenticate it, whatever that process is like, to make sure that it's meeting our need as well.
Yes.
And to add to that for you, you all do the scoping as well. So we don't just tell our engineer, go study the road. Our engineer works with the city and they tell us what the scope of the review needs to be. So that's what, I believe you all work with a third-party engineer.
That is correct. So when if you were to approve this tonight with that condition, then they would submit a traffic impact analysis with us through the plating process, whereby city staff would review a traffic engineer on their side, traffic engineer on our side, and they would work out what the impacts would be to the system and what the mitigation to those impacts, the extra traffic on the road would be, whether that's construction or fees in lieu or combination thereof that. Yes.
So, if I'm understanding, there could be improvements just to handle the flow of traffic. How far away from the development does that impact?
That would be
Need to be.
part of the scoping document.
So just going back to the original PDD that we did in 19, that traffic was then an issue and a concern, and we did a traffic study back then. So I've understood, it met the road as it is, the need for 162 lots, correct? Back then, it exceeded what that traffic count would have brought?
Yes, yeah, I mean, that traffic impact analysis indicated that the road as it existed with the width and the speeds and everything was adequate to handle the additional traffic that's being created.
With the addition of 70-plus lots, a lot of the concern focuses on the S-turn. So would that be something that would be mitigated if the findings of that analysis said that's an issue?
Yeah, I mean, we would have to look at that. Now, it may not be a situation where we can make them do all of it because we have to do rough proportionality. What is their impact to that? But it could be something that they could be required to pay fees in lieu of, and then we could work towards trying to make those improvements as they read. We talked about that last time. It's sort of the chicken or an egg thing. We prioritize streets based on traffic flow, and in order to street to be prioritized to have traffic flow, you have to have traffic flow, but if you don't have traffic flow, there's no reason to fix a road, so it's kind of which comes first.
No,
So that's why the TIAs, and that's why the new ordinance that's later on the agenda will actually create a requirement going forward for TIAs over a certain number of trips, so that we can, because it's something we've not done in the past, is get those funds, because we can't always make them make the improvements. There was many years ago, cities would say, you gotta build a whole new road. Well, they started pushing back saying, well, why do we have to bear the whole cost, because we're not the full impact, so you have to do it based on that, so. So yes, if improvements need to be made, we'll have to look at that, and if it's something they can do in lieu of paying a fee to make an improvement there. There is some additional right-of-way there, because that whole area is actually platted and gridded out. It's part of Robinson Original Town, so there is some flexibility to do something over there potentially,
In front of the development or like in the S-curve area?
in the S-curve area.
And then I guess the question back to you would be, you know, if the TIA comes back and says, hey, there are some improvements needed, is that going to be something that would pull this project from y'all's development plan? Is that something you would participate in and be willing to improve the traffic in that area, if that's what's
mitigation.
outlined?
Yeah, the mitigation, it would be a proportionality, and, you know, we do these all the time. You know, we would work with the city and discuss that proportionality. We would move forward with the project and work with the city on that, so we anticipate something coming back and on that.
That's all.
And I would also say, too, that they're gonna be studying existing traffic, so whatever was done in 2019, there may have been less traffic on those roads, so they will go out there and study during peak hours existing traffic, so they will take, you know, today's population into consideration as well, so.
So to continue that, what will happen then, once the study's done, if it's determined that something needs to actually be done to the road to mitigate it, you will then work with the city as far as who does what and what mitigate before any construction is done.
Yes,
So
before anything.
everything depends on on the results of this study,
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Before it goes forward.
yes,
And all that's gonna be approved by the city,
yes.
planning, zoning, us, so just to clarify. I did have another question for you. So I noticed that, that the differences as far as the width of the lot sizes, right? Separation between the homes. It looked initially to me like the homes were gonna be close together, but after I viewed it, it's gonna be, start off with 5 feet on one side, but 15 and 5. So the distance between the homes is gonna remain 20 feet, is that correct?
The distance between the homes, it is 5 or a total of 15, 5 on one side or a total of 15. So
7.5 and 7.5.
it could be 7.5 and 7.5, or
But it's gonna stay the same as it was before, is what I
for
understood.
the SF, yes. for
Right,
that
for
one.
that is,
So it's 7.5 from the house to the end of the lot, so the other one's 7.5.
Yes.
So it's 15 feet.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, it's still gonna, they're not gonna be like this. That was just one of the thoughts I had, but it's all good. Okay.
Either one of you guys?
I don't have any questions. I may make a comment after
Okay.
listening to everybody else.
I'll leave the comment you gave me.
I don't have any questions.
Two of y'all, any questions?
The fencing, I think there was just something that was different, something about,
Oh, the outward facing.
yeah.
And no metal post.
Yeah, so is it just your normal 6-foot wooden fence?
Yeah, we just said that we would stick with the city's standard on
Yeah,
that. I mean, if it's.
Yeah, I don't know why,
fencing The good side out.
do you know what I'm talking about, David? Just dropped off and I'm like, well, how else would they put it on? So they're just your regular normal fence, okay.
My question is, when you have two houses that back up to each other, which is the good side and which
Whoever
is
goes out
out?
and tips the fence guy.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
You just use a singular.
Rock, paper, scissors.
I mean,
Whoever moves
I
in
think that
first.
was
Right.
intended more for like perimeter fencing or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
roadway-
Unless you're
roadway
climbing
And
over
for
it.
perimeter
Right.
and street fencing, it's always the good side.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that's why we're one.
I only have one. It's kind of a question, but informational. Do y'all have like a pattern of, in these 168, how many of the lower size versus how many larger size houses you usually do in a subdivision like this?
So in our smaller subdivisions, we typically do see just a singular size subdivision. When we get into some of our larger subdivisions, that's where we may have some variations, and then it's very strategic on how you step the sizing up. You know, we never really do duplexes and then larger lots. We'll kind of start in the front with our larger lots and then, you know, do a ratio of the next size down and another ratio of the next size down and work our way back to the smaller lots. But in a lot of the smaller subdivisions, we typically just do a one lot size.
So what about the square footage of the houses you're gonna build? Are there
The square footage,
like up, down, some lower, some medium, some larger? Is that,
yeah, the square footage bands, I could speak to the subdivision that we have about 10 miles away and the sampling that I gave. Those square footage bands, had them written down, I believe it's like 1417 was the small one. And the biggest one was 2,560 something. It was just under 2,600 square feet. And that's the typical square footage bands that we see on the 50-foot lots.
No doubt a two-story in that case. The
And
20
yeah, just 2-story and one, yeah, there's no 2-story that is 14. Typically
On
the
that
single
side of the
stories
lot.
range from the, you know, the 14-ish to about the 1,900, 2,000 at most. And then the 2 stories are about 1,800 to 2,600.
okay, thank you. That's all.
And what are y'all proposing for the HOA fees?
So for these HOA fees, they'll be minimal. We do a study on it because this is just some open space that will be maintained. I don't know that there will be much. It may be $15 a quarter or something minimal. Obviously, some of our larger subdivisions have large amenity centers and, you know, things like that. So it varies. This would be extremely minimal. However, the builder that acquires this may want to go and put in some sort of trail system, volleyball court on the, you know, the back area outside of the floodplain, something like that, and it could drive it up. But I would imagine these to be very minimal.
You put a splash pad back there.
There you go. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Master George, I'll take your comment.
Okay. You know, in the last survey that we went over, there was a pretty much general consensus that the city does need more affordable housing. I can understand that. And this pretty much fits that niche of what we want. This is just my personal opinion. I'm not a developer, but when I see strings of the same size lot, it's not something that I personally would like to live in. I grew up in a project as such with cookie cutter type lot sizes. I would personally like to see lot variances, small to medium to large, scattered in a development, where you're not building a development, you're building a neighborhood. If I wanted to say, I live in a smaller home, and I look across the street and I see a bigger one, gives me the option to increase my living status within my neighborhood. Nothing changes for my family other than the site of where I live. And that's what I would envision in a development if I was to build it. This is just my personal opinion.
Okay, noted.
By and large, in our city, I could comment on this.
No, Bert, no comment.
way. Sorry, we're done.
You get this much time.
Yeah. Just to say that my observation in the last, and I'll say it again, 45 years I've been here, has been we do have a variation in neighborhood sizes, lot sizes. In my neighborhood, for example, their lot sizes are not all the same. I think that's mainly what we have. We really don't have many, correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, we don't really have many, if any, divisions that would keep the same lot size like 50 by 120.
Two, I think.
Two. But that's better, in my opinion, than, say, apartment complexes, and we approved this nicer apartment complex over here. So I think we're talking $350,000, $280,000 to $350,000 for a home, say 1,400 square feet, 1,500 square feet. That's a pretty substantial amount of money in my estimation. So I think that we're still keeping it, seems to me like, upscale, more or less. We're not losing, I don't think, in other words, should we expect every subdivision to have $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 homes on it? I don't think that's realistic. I think what having a few of these in our city is probably a good thing, because we're giving people a chance to actually afford something that, you know, $350 is a lot of money to a lot of people, and it seems to me like that makes it affordable. I just had one more thing to say too, Greg, is that it seems that reading this from a staff standpoint for you, Craig, and from David, right? What I read here is it's considered by city staff to be minor in nature and detrimental, and not detrimental to any of the surrounding users or to the development as a whole. So I'm basing it on your statements. Staff does not have issues or concerns with the request, provided that the following conditions are met. Like you read, that's the only condition that y'all see that needs to be met to approve it, is the traffic study?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Is that correct, Dave?
we didn't ask them to do the green space. I mean, that was something they
They
initiated.
volunteered to do.
The previous development had every bit of land divided into lots, so the property lines went.
Well, for me as a council member, it's important for me, because I don't do the day-to-day. We don't do the day-to-day running of the city, y'all do. So to have your input and your opinion saying that staff doesn't have a concern with it, that relieves me considerably as a council member, because you guys have done the studies, you're fighting it day-to-day, and I respect that. So, in my opinion, I think that's a go.
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment. 48% of our citizens survey that we just got our responses back from, 48% of our residents say that we have below average port availability of affordable housing. This is exactly what people are wanting. I lived in both of the small lot homes, like off of Dury and Harris Village. I loved them both. And I love the fact that you guys are providing sidewalks. Like, I would die for sidewalks in my neighborhood. So I think that this is exactly what our citizens want to see.
Good. I'm gonna cut it off now.
Done.
Charlie can't talk anymore.
Done.
All right. So we're gonna need a motion, and that motion will need to include, obviously, the traffic impact. Destiny, is there any way you can pull up his, because it wasn't,
I think it's page
Oh, it's
37.
on there.
is it on there?
Yeah.
I couldn't find, we were sitting there flipping through.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
it's this,
you
section
found it.
like this right here.
Where was it at?
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the way he had it written, if she found it. Because he had it like separate.
Yeah,
37?
page 37.
Let me just try it.
All right, I'm gonna let Jeremy go with the motion.
Yeah.
Make a
37.
motion to enact an ordinance 2025-006 to recommend approval of the ordinance modifying the Plan Development District Ordinance 2019-002 in order to allow for a reduction in lot sizes, increase in number of lots, open space preservation, and other changes for portions of the Windmill Preserve subdivision on 48.67 acres, approximately addressed at 710 East of All Drive, also known as McLennan County Appraisal District Property ID 158319 Ocampo acres, 48.669, with the following conditions to be added, which include language to be added to the proposed ordinance, Exhibit B text stating that a traffic impact analysis TIA is required to be performed on the proposed lots and submitted with the preliminary plat application. This TIA consideration will be part of the preliminary plat process. Recommendations for improvements and/or mitigation shall be carried out by the developer as part of the preliminary plat, final plat, and subdivision construction processes.
I'll second the motion.
Oh,
Is that good, Craig?
good.
I applaud it for sure.
Misty's the one that asked.
Is that good?
Are you okay with that? Okay. All right.
He read it verbatim.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
So let it be ordered there. All right. Okay, moving on, one more. Put it in gear here. So we're at 7:29, we're gonna open a public hearing to consider impossible action approving ordinance 2025-007 deleting in its entirety Appendix A zoning, Article 11 supplementary district regulations, Section 11.11, site plan approval, and adding Chapter 22 site development as indicated in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date, providing a savings clause, and finding and determining that the meeting in which ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. Dave?
Yes. Bring up PowerPoint presentation, please.
This is the right one, right?
Yes, thank you. Mayor and council, item before you tonight is just the site development, plan code changes. This has been before you in 2 workshops. Last one was February 18th. This is here for consideration tonight at your request from that meeting. And basically what this does is it establishes more formal processes and procedures for site development. And also it will be applicable to all uses excluding single-family, duplex on a lot, and agricultural related uses in our city. So non-residential, like industrial, commercial, multifamily, condo, that sort of thing. And these site plan items are already within your zoning code, Chapter 11.11. This would eliminate them and replace it with a new Chapter 22 called site development. And what this does is it spells out our site development process better. What's needed to be provided in more detail, application processes, pre-conference requirements, pre-development meetings. Would also add the traffic impact analysis requirements in as well, just as you looked at tonight as part of this PDD modification process for these items as well. At the PZC meeting on July 18th, 2024, they recommended approval of this unanimously 5-0. And with that said, I'm here for any questions you may have. That's just a brief summary of kind of what everything is. I'm here for any questions, and thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Anybody else to speak on this? Okay, we'll close the hearing at 7:32. Any questions or discussions before we vote here? I didn't think so. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance, get my paper in front of me, 2025-007, deleting in its entirety Appendix A zoning, Article 11 supplementary district regulations, Section 11-11 site plan approval, and adding Chapter 22 site development as indicated in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date, providing for a savings clause, and finding and determining that the meeting in which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Done. Anybody have any requests for future? Don't hear any. Okay, with that, we will call our meeting adjourned at 7:33.